Hey, you go crazy.
Okay, so I had made all of my police reports. Like I said, Russ Ewan, Walter Jacobson, the police union, the internal affairs, all these people. I cover all, and the FBI. I cover all of the bases, And then, so the FBI contacted me and they wanted to meet with me at my home on May 19th, 1995. And so I took all of my receipts to work and made copies of them because they wanted to see what I had. So I'm thinking, okay, finally now I'm gonna get some fucking help. So I got an envelope full of every document, the originals, and then I got the copies of all of this shit that went on for them at least a year or whatever. I make the copies, and then I get a call on the radio towards the end of my shift from the commander upstairs. Now remember, I'm trying to get inside, get off them streets, right? So the commander calls me in and say, we found you a spot. You could start on Monday. Because I think this was maybe a Friday or something. Mm-hmm. He said, you could start on Monday. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, cool, you know, I'm all excited. I'm so taken by what just happened because I've been fighting so hard to be able to get off the streets. I go downstairs to the locker room. I take off my bulletproof vest, put it in my locker. I ain't even thinking. Because usually I'm on high alert. I'm wearing my shit all the way to my crib. Mm-hmm. So I take that off. I got all my guns and everything, so I'm straight on that. So I jump in my car and I'm heading down Racine. I lived in Beverly, so I'm heading towards my house or whatever. So when I get in my car, I'm in a 1995 Mercedes, and this is 1995. My car note was $795, but my jealous ass coworkers sitting up there thinking, you know, I'm balling or something like that because I got a brand new Benz. You can't, I like nice stuff, you know what I'm saying? You know, you like what you like. So anyway, I'm driving down the street in my Benz, and I look up in the rearview mirror and I see this Bronco or Tahoe or whatever. It was a Chevy, and it was following me. And I was like, damn, what the fuck is this? This a Hispanic dude in here. And so that was odd, because Inglewood is just blacks, you know, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking through my rearview mirror, and I see this Hispanic dude following me and everything like that. And I didn't put it past that they could have brought, you know, other people in or whatever. So I was on alert. So what I did, I took off from the station at 61st and Racine. When I got down to 72nd and Racine, the guy was still behind me. I think it was 72nd or 73rd. So what I did was, at that intersection, I moved all the way over to the left, got my left blinker on, and I said, I'm going to make a right from this left lane. And if this guy do it, then I know this motherfucker following me. Right. So when the light turned green, from that left-hand lane, I came all the way across and made my right turn and started going down the street. He did the same thing because he was behind me. He did the same thing. I'm like, oh, shit is on. So I floor it. I'm going all through the neighborhoods because I'm thinking this is the hit now. Because why would this guy be following me? You know what I'm saying? So I'm going all through the neighborhoods and everything like that, flooring it.
And he's still behind you.
He's still behind me. And I was able to lose him at a light. So I had made my way up to 79th and Western. Back then, it used to be a restaurant called Miss Muffet right there on the corner. And we didn't really have cell phones like we do now. So I didn't have access to a cell phone. I had to get out and use a payphone. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I jumped out and I called my husband, told him what was going on, gave him a description of this vehicle that was following me. He was like, stay there, I'm gonna come. He said, stay there, I'm gonna come to you. So anyway, I'm staying there. And so I said, well, did you call the FBI? We're supposed to be meeting them tonight. And so he was like, no, go ahead, call them. I'm gonna try to call too. So I called the FBI from the restaurant, and I got the guy's voicemail, and I told him what was going on. that I suspected somebody is following me right now, and my husband left him a message. We never got a chance to talk to him. So anyway, my husband finally makes it to Miss Muffet. I'm sitting there at a table just shaking. I'm in full uniform. I just don't have a vest on, but I'm in full uniform like, oh my shit, you know. So my husband come in, he was like, okay, come on, I'm gonna follow you home. We get in the car, and for some reason, this guy didn't notice, you know, what was going on. When we started driving, the guy was parked at 80th and Western. Remember, I'm coming from 79. Mm-hmm. So he was parked in the bus stop. So I'm like, damn, there he is. My husband about 2 cars behind. He didn't know my husband had came. So when I drove past 80th, the guy came right in and started trying to chase me again. My husband came from 2 or 3 car lengths back away and cut him off. This all in, it's 5 o'clock in the evening, rush hour traffic. My husband cut him off. They exchanged words. And then my husband's like, why the fuck you following my wife? Next thing you know, they start capping at each other. It's a full-blown shootout right there in the middle of the thing. Now, I done made it safely past 80th. I look in my rearview mirror and I see my husband down on the ground shooting. And I could hear the shots, you know, as I was going. And that's why I was like, where is he? What's happening? So I bust a U and I turn around and I drive right back there to 80th where he is. So my husband, he started, like I said, he was shooting at the guy and the guy took off. And so I said, are you all right? Are you all right? He was like, yeah, get that motherfucker. So I followed the guy. I'm still a police officer. This is a shooting. I'm gonna catch this motherfucker, whatever. So I get into a shootout with him. We ended up doing a full circle and ended up back at 80th and Western. When we get to 80th and Western, people done started calling the police and all. You could hear sirens coming and stuff like that. So when the police initially arrived, I'm in full uniform, right? I tell them what's going on. This guy's, it's a threat against my life, and this guy was following me, and he got into a shootout with my husband and all this kind of stuff. So long story short, they put that guy in handcuffs, and then they assisted me, you know, trying to figure out all of this stuff. It wasn't 30 seconds later, motherfucking internal affairs hiding out in the forest preserve up there on 83rd. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Come and say, take them cuffs off that officer and lock that bitch up. Process that motherfucking shit for a minute.
Say that again.
Take them cuffs off that officer and lock that bitch up and get her piece of shit husband.
I had to keep bringing up race, but I'll be having to put race to face. Who is this saying? It's a white man or black man?
No, a black man, Charles Williams, motherfucker. Sergeant Charles Williams.
So you telling me, like, a lot of the, because we obviously listen to your story, a lot of your interactions with this BS was with other black officers?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Plot twist.
Yes. Okay. So tell me how the fuck what they doing in there at the Park District? They show up just like that. He identifies the officer as his officer. Mm-hmm. So this dude from internal affairs that's chasing me. When all was said and done, they said that they were out there providing surveillance because they were trying to protect me. That's how they tried to clean it up.
Right.
How the fuck you gonna try to protect somebody? You know they know that it's been a threat against their life, and you chasing them fucking down the street? But see, in the midst of all of that, they put their system in place. And I'm gonna tell y'all, I'm gonna educate y'all a little bit on their system. And part of their system is to discredit, manipulate the media, manipulate society so that nobody will believe a fucking word that you say. So let me tell you how they put the system against me. When I made my reports to the police department up the chain, they began, and when I say they, the corrupt motherfuckers began to make police reports against me, accuse me of being a drug dealer. So now they get to check into my life, you know, as much as they want to, which I didn't care because I wasn't no drug dealer. But they got that, they used that in the system to discredit me. So whenever I would go to anybody for help, they're saying, well, you know, she's under investigation for being involved with gangs, and her husband was a former gang member and all this kind of stuff. So they would just do everything they could to just try to discredit me. And that's a tool, a system, a weapon that they use. As soon as anybody bring any kind of complaint or allegation, that's one of the first things they're going to do. They're going to turn it around and make it like you the bad guy. Nobody should believe you. So they use that Officer Clifton to be able to say, oh yeah, she hanging around dope boys and all this kind of stuff. And that wasn't the case. They was just on some discredit stuff, but it just wouldn't work. So anyway, we get into this shootout. Now I understand why the Internal Affairs is watching or is there or whatever, because they've been trying to discredit me. They even said that I made the whole thing up, that the guy that came and reported it to Sergeant Doty, they came and said that I told him to say that. Even Sergeant Doty, knowing what the truth was, he came down there and lied. Black guy. So they saying that I made a, first they called me a dope dealer, then they said I made a false police report, that I lied about a hit being on me, that I made the whole thing up. That's what they did. They said that I made the whole thing up. Mm. And so they got all of that documented and everything like that. But the problem is they didn't know at the time that I was documenting everything that I was doing, every person I was reporting it to. So long story short, after me and this officer get into a shootout, the police come, they lock me up. We driving to the police station. They've taken me to 51st and Racine. They take my husband there. And they separated us. And then Detective Mosley, black person, kept coming in there, you know, trying to get me to give some kind of statement or whatever. But you don't say shit. You know what I'm saying? You keep your fucking mouth shut because you know that they're going to take whatever you say and turn it around. That's street code, am I right? You don't say shit. If they got a case against you, let them motherfuckers prove it. You don't incriminate yourself. You got a right against self-incrimination. My husband from the streets, he thinking he helping the situation. He was like, they was trying to kill my wife. It was a hit out against her. I just came to help her, whatever. He placed himself at the scene. He did all of He hung his own self because he gave a statement and they took his statement and turned it around. Mm. Got him for attempted murder, impersonating a police officer, all of that shit. I'm just telling you. He did 4 years for that shit. They tried to make me testify against him. And remember, I always say I wanted to be a lawyer, right? I've always been real legal smart. So the attorney that I hired for my husband was trying to force me to testify on behalf of my husband. I knew that if I had gotten fired from the police department, I would lose all of my impunity, all of my coverage of them keeping me under the umbrella of a police officer. Mm-hmm. So then I would be subject to criminal charges and everything like that, indemnification. So that's what it's called. They would still indemnify me if I was still a police officer because I'm doing my job. But if I wasn't a police officer, had gotten fired, then I would be open for whatever the fuck they wanted to do. Okay. So anyway, I knew that. And so I refused to give testimony. So they brought up a charge of contempt of court against me. Okay. So the morning that I had to go to court, I just knew that the type of person I am, if I get in front of the right audience and I can speak on my behalf, that I would get out of it because the truth gonna prevail. So anyway, I take my daughter, she was a baby at the time, I take her and drop her off at daycare. I ain't make no phone calls to make no arrangements or nothing. I'm going to court and I could possibly be going to jail. But I just wasn't thinking like that. I'm like, the truth gonna come out. So anyway, we in the courtroom, the judge is hearing everything, and my lawyer and my husband's lawyer were both like, no, she should be able to go ahead and testify. But the law say that a wife or a husband is not compelled to give testimony against their spouse or whatever, because in the Bible it say the two are one flesh. That's where that kind of comes from. So you don't have to testify against yourself. Yeah. So anyway, I refused. And I raised my hand and I asked the judge, could I speak on my behalf? Because I see that my lawyer ain't helping me, and the ones I'm paying for, Jeff, they ain't helping him. You know, they ain't helping, they not looking at the bigger picture. Somebody got to be around for our daughter. So anyway, I asked the judge, could I speak? I quoted that area of the Constitution, that area of the law, and I told the judge, I'm not compelled to give testimony, and if I do, I would be waiving a right of protection that I have for myself. And so the judge said, she's absolutely correct. He said, that's dismissed. And people that was in, we was at 26 in California, the people that was in the courtroom just started, because the judge began to just, you know, tell how I was correct. And everybody that was in the courtroom, they was waiting for their cases, but they was in the courtroom hearing about our case, because this was about the big shootout on 80th and Western. So if you in there and it's your case, you're like, ooh, you know, damn. Yeah. So they was all really into what the case was about. Right. And then when I was able to get that small victory, the people was just cheering, standing up and everything. And I was like, wow, you know, I'm just going off of faith, believing that I'm going to be all right. But yeah, I walked out of there that day. And so I was good with that. Yeah. Now back to the system. I said they tried to discredit you, right? The next thing they did, they tried 3 times to get grand jury indictments against me. And they couldn't get a true bill on none of those trials. That's when they go in and they have it's like, you can't be there, your lawyers or nobody's there. It's like a secret kind of meeting or whatever with a jury, and they present evidence, and the people come back with a true bill, and it'll say whether or not it's enough information to actually charge the person. They tried 3 times to charge me, and they couldn't do it. They then tried to get a search warrant on my house. They couldn't get the judge to sign a search warrant, because I knew if they was getting a search warrant, they was going to come up in there and try to plant some drugs or whatever, because remember, they trying to find anything to discredit me. So then the next thing that they did was they began to after the shootout, I was placed on punishment, like working at 11th and State, the non-emergency calls or whatever. And so on my way home from work, Jeffrey would come and pick me up, and they would follow us and try to provoke another incident. And we just, I would have to beg him, because he was high-head, Jeff. And I'm like, don't play into it. This is all part of their system. You know, they doing this shit on purpose. And so I can actually say that I am a survivor. No, I am a victor over their system, because they tried everything they could. But the one hero that I do want to point out in this situation is, remember I told you that I had all of my receipts with me? When they put me in custody, I'm sitting there with this big ass manila envelope, and I'm holding it like this. And it got all of my stuff in it. And I know that if one of them motherfuckers come and get this, it's over. I don't have a leg to stand on. For some reason, they never noticed it. So I'm in custody for like 5-6 hours or whatever. Now, they were supposed to give me a phone call. They didn't. They let the other officer call the union, because whenever there's an officer involved shooting, the union comes out. So they let him call for union representation, but they didn't let me call. So I'm like, damn. But when the union rep came, he learned that it was a police officer another police officer involved. So he said he wanted to see me. He come in there, and now remember, I had already reported my stuff to the police union. And so when he came in there and we got to talking, he was like, didn't you make a report about this? And I was like, yeah. And so he knew behind the scenes what was really going on. So every time in your life, it might be one time when you just got to trust somebody. And this was my hero. His name was Harold Coombs. And I asked him, I told him, I said, if you would please just take this envelope and go off to the side somewhere and read some of it. It will tell you exactly what is going on. I said, I got to trust somebody. I said, I'm going to give you these papers to you. He was like, I'll hold them for you. I'll hold them for you. He was like, you can come and get them tomorrow, you know. And so he went out of the room and he went off, and I'm assuming that he read it because I can't see him. You know, I'm in a room or whatever. All I know is this big commotion started. He come back. He was like, you motherfuckers know y'all wrong for this shit. Y'all need to release her. How the fuck y'all gonna do this to this officer? That was the union guy. He had my back. Yeah, white guy.
See?
White guy. After I was released from custody, I went to the Fraternal Order of Police headquarters to meet with him because the union, they like, no, we gonna help you. Wow. They wasn't going for all of this corrupt shit. They was like, no, we gonna do whatever we can to help you. They gave me a lawyer and all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, while we in there, somebody called and said that the detectives are on their way. They're getting ready to try to lock her up. And he was like, for what? He said they got an arrest warrant saying that she threatened one of them, I'm just gonna use my words, that she threatened the white girl at the police desk that get to work inside in the comfort and safety. They saying she threatened her by saying, you lucky you get to work inside. They took them words
as a threat.
As a threat. This man was my hero. He told the receptionist, go downstairs, lock the doors. He locked off the building and wouldn't let the detectives come in there and arrest me.
And shout out to Harold.
Come on. I really appreciated that. But yeah.
Somebody had your back.
Somebody had my back. Yep. But
that
you see the pattern? They trying everything that they could.
The devil is a lie.
Yep. And who was it? The black Goonies that sell themselves out, coming trying to arrest me for some shit that wasn't nothing but an argument. Yeah, I cussed the bitch out. I'm pissed off. You got me going back out there on the streets and this bitch get to work at the front desk answering the phones, but I'm out there hoofing it, risking my life. Hell yeah, I'm upset about that. I ain't give a fuck about that bitch.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I ain't give a fuck about her. Cecilia Bohan. Fuck her. Just saying. I don't care. They gonna let that bitch work inside, keep my black ass outside. It just was wrong. It just was wrong. But I do thank Harold Coombs for what he did to help me, because he didn't have to do that. He could have been just like everybody else. He could have been like all of them. All they did was turn their head and allow the situation to progress where I could have got killed. Then had the audacity to say, I made it up. Then had the audacity to say that they was out there not trying to kill me, but trying to protect me. That's in my receipts. Who would believe that?
They be saying anything.
That's what I said. He who controls the narrative. And they had all of the control. They were manipulating the media and all that kind of stuff. But it's all right.
And so for the people that's watching, that's why it's important not to believe everything you see on the news.
Thank you.
Everything do not be true.
Yep.
We talked about that. Well, we had that conversation with Charleston White. That's what I was telling Charleston White.
Oh, yeah, that's another one. I like him.
You like him?
Yeah, I like Charleston, but he get a little you know, rough around the edges.
Did you watch our interview with him?
I saw your interview with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we was talking about that, how, the media can portray a whole different, reality.
I have to challenge that is because,
with me being in the media field and you being in the media field yourself, you know, a lot of shit in the headlines be fake, right? Charleston White shoots himself in the leg in the club. We know that's fake.
You miss
Charleston White, Soulja Boy.
You miss what I'm saying. That's not the media field. I'm not in the media field. I don't have a media press pass. I'm a YouTuber with content. YouTubers aren't the media field. I get no information from YouTube. I get no information from Google. I'm going to go to a library database that's going to give me access to police records, news articles, because if the news reports something wrong, they can be sued.
You know the news is fake.
Listen to me. If the news reports something wrong, they can be sued. That's why they have a correction section, where if they say something wrong, they say, hey, we got to correct this, because they can be sued. YouTubers can't be sued for saying something wrong. YouTube don't have a media press pass where if the president comes...
Now, hold on. Now, let's talk. I don't mean to cut you off, but I do want to talk about fake news just right now because you're a Donald Trump supporter, correct?
I'm a conservative voter who just so happened to vote for Donald Trump because he pushed the conservative platform. But
and you know, he also pushed the fake news agenda with Fox, correct?
I don't know that to be true.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I come to challenge you today because I watch a lot of your interviews. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, you missing what I'm saying.
No, I ain't missing. I'm right here with you.
Hold on. If you hear me
I want you to be right here where I'm at too, though.
But I'm way past you, brother, because you stuck on the news. I'm telling you, I done went to the library.
But we talk about credible sources.
But listen to me.
You said news articles. That's where I'm at.
Listen. You saying news and news articles are totally different.
You got the articles from the news.
No,
you ain't talking to no fool. What's up, Mr. Charleston White?
Let me explain something to you, brother. You don't see news editors on television. The people who write the news aren't newscasters. You totally confused.
The newscasters reporting what they got from the news editors.
That's not true at all, brother.
What you mean that's not true?
The things that's reported on the news are not equally to the things that's written in papers. That's why you got Bill O'Reilly who goes on television and speak, and you got Bob Ray Sanders who write and you'll never see his face. They don't say the same things. Because one is pushing a narrative. One have to really write. That's why all news journalists who write have to have a source. That's why when the government say, hey, give me your source. Hey, man, my freedom of press. I don't have to tell you who told me this information. The news guy on television, he can tell you whatever because those are two different entities. And that's what we need to know as black people in America. The guy that's on the television, he's full of shit. The guy that's writing, that's why they're trying to take the writers out. So if you ever want to hide something from a nigga, put it in the book.
Like I say, they had everybody convinced that I was a drug dealer. I'm like, why I gotta deal drugs or whatever? I'm just a woman that's street smart from the streets that knew how to hustle and get her game on. I've been on welfare. I saved before I even became a police officer, I bought my first building when I was 20. I saved my welfare checks to come up with a $500 deposit. Ran into some shiesty realtors that sold me a building, an apartment building. Because my mother had the cleaners, I was able to show that I had a job. That was just me being street smart. Mm-hmm. So I had money when I was on the police department. I had multiple streams of income. That was something that they couldn't even fathom. Mm-hmm. But I always had multiple streams of income. Mm-hmm. That's how I move. I find things that I know I'm good at, and I do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Make some money with it.
Make some money with it. And I make sure that I solve hard problems. At least one of my businesses is going to be finding a hard problem that I know how to solve naturally, and I'm going to make my paper off that. That's going to be my bag. Mm. Yeah.
You smart.
Thank you.
Mama ain't raised no fool.
She ain't raised no fool.
And you ain't raising no fool. I know that. Shout out to your daughter.
Yeah. Like I say, I didn't have any idea she was reaching out to you, but I think she saw this and it prompted her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because she had no idea. After she called you, they didn't even know the story. I told it to my daughter and Snow. I told it to them. And they were just like you guys. Yeah. Then they were like, no, you got to go there. You got to get this out. You can't just be sitting in a box. It was sitting in a box in the garage. Mm-hmm. All my receipts.
Wow. That's what's up.
Yeah. But I just hope that somebody is encouraged by my story, somebody is inspired by it. And I just hope that somebody that may be facing situations like this, that's in law enforcement, feel like they can, you know, make some good decisions to get away from them kind of environments, even if you got to change departments or whatever. You don't have to choose to be corrupt. You have a choice. You don't have to do it. You know? And that would be my contribution if I ever came back and was working with the Chicago Police Department. I would want to teach ethics in law enforcement. And people might be like, who the fuck is she to teach it? Yeah, motherfucker, I said it. I would like to teach ethics in law enforcement because you have to bring in the ethical side of the officer. That side can't be dormant. You have a right to be ethical. They, on paper, want you to be like that, but in practice, they don't. No, I'm gonna be one way. You ain't gonna have me fucking over people and all that kind of stuff just on some bullshit. Yeah.
DJ, you go crazy.